My name is Christa Gesztesi. I am a sister with the congregation of Notre-Dame in the United States of America. My current ministry is in Staten Island, New York, and this is my third year as a temporary professed sister. So I'd like to share with you my vocation story. I had first been introduced to the idea of becoming a sister from a friend of the family. In my late 20s, she had said to me, I think you might want to consider being a sister. And of course in that moment, well, maybe not of course to you, but of course to me, I was very upset because I hadn't imagined myself becoming a sister. So I moved on with my life. I continued to pursue dreams, and actually at that time I had an opportunity to live in Spain, so I pursued that for 2 years. And when I came back from Spain, I kept feeling this desire to work with young women. But I knew that I wasn't educated in that field. I had been educated in business. But still there was this desire. So I found a program that was a program for people who were in business or other fields, and then they could become teachers. And so I decided to do that, to explore this field of education working with young people, particularly young girls. So I pursued that career for a while, and then this call or this interest to religious life started to surface a little bit more. And a friend of mine said, why don't you explore it? Why don't you look into it? So I went to the Archdiocese of New York website, and I found that there was a program for people who were interested in religious life. And at the time when I read it, it said for women and men who were interested in religious life and possibly the priesthood. So in my head, still wondering what my vocation was, I said, I'll go to the meeting and maybe I'll find a husband. Maybe there will be another man who's also very religious and loves God as much as I do. So in the end, obviously I'm here. That did not happen. However, when I went to the meeting, I met one of our sisters, Sister Deanna, and she was encouraging the women to go into other communities, to explore the communities and see where you were feeling an attraction. And she also encouraged us to get a spiritual director. So I began to work with a spiritual director, and I started to visit different communities. And I wasn't really feeling at home in the particular communities. I felt certain attractions, the prayer life or the ministries, but there was no movement in my heart. And so at this time, I prayed to God about it. I had looked at some spiritual programs, one of them being formative spirituality. And so I looked into this program and I started to study it, and I really started to enjoy it. And I prayed to God and I prayed to Jesus in this moment while studying. And I said, I will surrender. If you really want me to become a religious sister, if this is what you want, I will do it. And I was crying hysterically while I was doing my best to let go. And after that moment, after I cried and after I let go, I felt free from the pressure of becoming a sister, and something sort of left me. And so I let it go. I stopped pursuing becoming a sister. I even went back to dating, and I just lived my life and pursued other dreams and continued my career as an educator. And then there was this movement in my life where I was telling a friend about my experience dating, and the way I was talking, she said, it sounds to me that you feel pressured to become married or pressured to get married. And again, I got very upset. But it was a moment where I sat with myself and said, are you feeling pressured to get married because everybody else is already married? And all of my friends at that time, at this point I was in my 30s, you know, they had families, my own brothers had families. So it was this moment where I felt very out of place. And I said to myself, this is not a desire, this is more of a pressure. And so I let myself be free of that desire to feel that I wanted to get married or that I had to get married. And I remember after accepting that about myself, I felt very, very free. And again, I felt a peace similar to I had felt before. And so I continued to explore my dreams and move on with my life. And then one day I was talking with my spiritual director and I said, I'd really like to go to Assisi. I want to explore my Italian roots. I want to practice my Italian. I want to visit my family while I'm in Italy. And my spiritual director is Franciscan. So she was Franciscan, excuse me. And so she helped me to connect with her sisters in Assisi. And before I went on the trip, I remember I started to have feelings again about the religious life, but this time it was more curious, and this time it was more seeing sisters as being women of change, women who were contributing to society in beautiful ways. There were different feelings coming up. It wasn't, I'm going to be a nun and pray all day and be in a monastery. It wasn't who I was, and therefore it was wonderful to feel these different ideas of sisters. And interestingly enough, when I got to Assisi, the woman who was in charge of the retreat center where I was going to be staying and also where I was going to be volunteering, she said, I'd like to have a talk with you before you begin your volunteering. And she said, you know, a lot of people come to Assisi and they find their vocations. And I said, oh no, here we go again with this. I'm not ready for this. I don't want to do this. Take me out of this. But I let it be because I said, I kind of feel something is shifting here and I'll be present to it. So during the course of my stay there, I had this moment where I realized I had had enough. I had had enough of feeling sad. I had enough of suffering. I had had enough of being upset and angry that I was out of place in my life. And so I remember journaling one evening and sort of demanding and sort of yelling at God and saying, enough, I want a family, I want, more education, I have all these other desires. And then I was pausing in my journaling and I said, I said to God, you want me to say it, right? You want me to say that I want to be a sister. You want to hear me say it. In other words, switching the position of God forcing me to do it and me being voluntarily desiring it. And so I wrote it. I said, I don't know what this means, but I want to be a sister. And so I felt something very profound that night. It was almost, there was no rain, but it was almost as if there was a big lightning. It was very, very profound. So I finished the journaling, went to sleep, woke up the next morning, and the sister at the retreat center said to me, I want you to meet someone. She's a sister from New York. And it was Sister Mako. And so I said, hello, my name is Kristen, and we talked for a little bit, and I said, tell me a little about your community. And she said, our foundress, Marguerite Bourgeois, has the charism, she has brought us the charism of the visitation, and like Mary, we bring Jesus to others. And I started to recall my love and appreciation for the visitation, and mostly for Elizabeth being so touched by Mary coming to her. But there was this beautiful sense when she spoke to me. And then she said, and we also have this charism of liberating education. And my heart literally leapt. And I thought, that's it. And then my next question was, do you wear a habit? And she said, no, just our cross. And so I knew in that moment, everything was given to me. The road after that wasn't always so smooth. I had a lot of really coming to accept. I was much older. I was, at that time in my 40s, so it was having to let go of being independent, having to let go of, living your life for yourself, pretty much. But after that, I went back to New York. I met with her and the sisters. We would have dinners. And one time they invited me to go to the sisters' summer home in Rhode Island. And when I was there, I remember seeing the sisters in such a powerful light. I mean, number one, they were all joyful. Number two, they were so welcoming. They were playful and humorous. They reminded me a lot of my family. And they also had this strength about them. They had this sense of power and courage, and they would share stories of what they had done in their lives. And I thought, that's what I want. This is what I've been desiring. And so then from there, I continued to take some more steps, and eventually I came to proceed and go through candidacy and then the novitiate, and then I took my first vows, and it was a powerful moment where I felt absolutely free, and my family and friends were happy for me, and everybody was with me along the journey. So it was this beautiful moment of all of us really celebrating that I had found my path, I had found my call, and I want to tie it back in to explain to you that the curious thing was when I had come back from Spain and had that desire to work with young women, that is what I'm doing today. So I am forming young women in the way that I had so desired and the way that God had called me to, but it took a long time. It took a long time, but it was worth the journey, because now I feel so excited to be with the young women that I minister to, and I couldn't be more joyful and grateful to God. So thank you.